Welcome back to Against the Cage. Scott Fontana here once again with the UFC middleweight champion, Dricus Du Plessis. Dricus, you've got a little bit of a fight coming up, if I understand correctly.
Indeed, I do indeed.
So, Dricus, now you and Khamzat Chimaev, you guys made your UFC debuts just a few months apart. He was obviously at welterweight at the time. You had already moved on from welterweight up at middleweight. He had a lot of hype when he came in for that, like after that first fight and everything, but you still beat him to that championship by, more than a year and a half, right? How much was he on your radar, during your rise through the rankings?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm a fan of the sport, so I know what's going on in the sport. I knew him from his debut, obviously fighting in a week, two fights that one week after the other, and I didn't make. But watching his fight, you could see he was something special. That's for sure. But he wasn't in my weight, so it didn't concern me. And as soon as the talks came of him fighting, going up and fighting, I just started getting the feeling I'm going to fight this guy one day.
Hmm.
And I knew I had this, I'm going to be champion, I know it, and maybe he's going to be champion in 170, come up, fight for another title. But I just got this feeling that we are going to meet up one day in the octagon. So, and then when he moved up, I knew that this is going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. I knew he would beat guys in top of the middleweight division. And then here we are. I mean, I'm not surprised that this fight happened. I'm happy that it's here, and it's a massive fight. It's incredible. I mean, it's great that we get to see this, that nothing happened in the sense where he stayed in the division for too long, was out of his prime, me, or anything like that. Two guys that are genuinely at the best of their abilities are fighting each other. And I think that's what the sport should be about. Fans want to see the two best guys in the world fight, and that's what they're going to see.
What's funny though about you in particular is the fact that, sort of off of him. He had a lot of hyperbole, a lot of excitement when he got burst on that scene with those two quick fights you mentioned. You came in as a two-weight champion over in KSW, so you'd accomplished a lot by this point. But I'm curious, just because you had a steadier, climb up the rankings, do you think that when you got to the UFC, you could have already been at that championship level that they were hearing about with Hamzat, or was there like a point in time, or maybe a fight that you had along the way that was like, you know what? Now I think I'm ready.
Yeah, it wasn't just that. It was about, there's no way it comes up. People are saying if he made his debut, he could have become a champion. There's no way on earth. He fought Kamaru. Usman was a champion at that stage. He fought Usman off the couch in 10 days' notice, and that fight could have been gone either way, in my opinion. So, yeah, no, he wouldn't have been champion. He, if he could have been champion, he would have. You know what I'm saying?
But what about
And
you? Like when you got to the UFC, I'm curious, do you think you were ready for that championship level, or did you also have time that you got to get there?
no, I needed the time for sure. I didn't, but I mean, I did that. I did that climb easily. The reason why there was a 2 year period where I only fought twice in 2 years, and that was because of COVID. I wasn't allowed to travel. South Africa was a red state, so we I wasn't allowed to travel. I didn't get my visa approved, and that's why I fought once, and we got back on the list, and then I fought what? I fought 3 times in 7 months. It was that's when and my first fight, second fight, top 20, third fight, top 15, then top 10, top 5, number one contender. So I had big jumps from where I started. I went in 6 fights. No, sorry. I went in 5 fights from debut to number one contender. And on my sixth fight, I fought for the belt. So yeah, because I had a lot of experience outside. I was a two-weight division champion, and I was a multiple organizational champion at KSW, which is a massive organization. So 14-2. So I had the experience to climb that ranks. The UFC. I believe the UFC will let you climb those ranks as fast as you want to, and that was my experience. How quickly you want to get there? Do you want to be a guy that stays here for 2 years, around about between number 15 and number 20, get your paycheck? You can do that. But that was never for me. I had a goal. I wanted to be champion by the age of 30. Because I'm from South Africa, we weren't necessarily seen as much as somebody like a guy like Hamza, the region he's from, just the gym he was from. I'm the first. I was the first from my gym. I was the first ever to be successful. There were South African fighters before me, but to be really successful and making a name, I was the first South African. The guys that came before me almost opened up that door, and I was a lot younger, and then I came through that. But we weren't seen. Why the rise seemed slower, but it was actually a lot faster. If you just look at the resume, if you compare myself and Hamzat's resume, you can't even compare them.
It wasn't slow, it was more steady, right? You just kind of you took those steps like you were talking about. But
Yeah,
but t
absolutely. I do. Yeah, yeah, 100%. But with the region he's from, the hype gets created by people at the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the word you used to describe him the other day was special. That it's an interesting word to throw out there for an opponent where sometimes we see other fighters or other champions denigrate an opponent. And obviously you're not glowing in everything you say about this man, but special is an interesting word. What makes him special?
Yeah, he's unbeaten. He's unbeaten at the top of the sport. That makes anybody special. To stay unbeaten in this game is really, really hard. And yeah, another thing that makes him special is the fact that he has this hype, and he almost people see him as a champion, but he is not one. He has it. He has this name, and he's not a champion, and that is special. That is something special. And he doesn't have that contender type of hype behind him. He has massive hype behind him. So that is special, and to live up and go. But I mean, that is a special guy. Khamzat Chimaev he's a brilliant fighter. If you look at his fights, the manner he's been able to beat guys, that is something special. To be able at this level to do that, it is special.
And obviously, you have your own special traits that have made you a champion in this sport. But one thing that kind of stands out, everybody always brings this up, right? Your kind of your awkward style, this weird, to use a word that Chimaev used to describe. Well, actually, what he was doing was he was saying other people will say your style is very weird. He disagreed. He called it just an MMA style. I'm curious, what do you think? Maybe people don't understand about your style and what you bring to the cage.
Yeah, I think you just said it best. They don't understand it because if they did, they would have figured it out by now, and they haven't. So I think it's a superior style. That's how I think of it.
Okay, all right. Now obviously you're a finisher. You take pride in being a finisher. That's been you throughout your career. You're in this weird situation now where you're coming off of two or three fights, both the same opponent, Sean Strickland, that went the distance, to what do we attribute the fact that those two fights maybe you weren't able to secure that finish like you were trying to? Does it have to do with Strickland or is it what do you think that is?
I mean, go look at the guy's record. Then you have to understand that too. You're fighting a guy at the top of the sport who, and if you look at that last fight and the first one, it wasn't for a lack of trying. He's just defensively so, he's losing a fight, but defensively he is so responsible. He doesn't take chances. Fighting a guy that's constantly running backwards and trying to evade and not really coming to fight, it's very hard. It's hard to catch someone like that and really, get you that finishing, you know, that's so it was a 50-45 fight, but and I nearly got it. I heard him, but to get that finish, it was hard. He's a tough guy first. Strickland is extremely tough. He takes a punch like a champion. And then, of course, when you're fighting a guy who's hiding behind that shoulder like he does, it's the style that made it hard for me. So, you know, I I can I need you to come and try and fight me when I'm going to finish you in that way. So, yeah, Strickland, I attribute that 100% to his toughness and his ability to not get finished rather than my inability to finish.
I can't imagine you're looking at Khamzat Chimaev in the same way. I imagine you're seeing probably some opportunities where finishes could present himself. He is a little bit more of an aggressive fighter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100%. I'm going in there into this fight, and I'm looking for a finish from the first second to the last. And yeah, in a fight like this, the finishes are much more all around us than a fight like Strickland.
How much of the temptation though is to kind of, and you're saying you're looking for it any second of the fight. I understand that, but there is a lot of evidence now. We've seen more tape of Khamzat that you get him a little later into that fight, maybe things start to head in your favor a little more. How much of that do you kind of start to say, well, maybe a little rope a dope here?
Yeah, no, that's not me. That's never going to happen. You can't go and say, "Oh, this guy always gets tired." Maybe he gets tired, and what if he doesn't? Look at what happened to me. People that was Strickland. They thought, "Oh, first 2 rounds, just play. He's going to get tired, and then we go for it." Nah. Surprise, surprise. You don't. That's it. You don't bargain on somebody else's weakness when you go and fight. You don't know what that guy's going through, how he's preparing. I prepare like I do. I put every single bit of effort. I'm going out there. When the ref says fight, I'm fighting as hard as I can for as long as I can.
Okay, okay. Last question I had for you, and you gave a very impassioned answer to Ariel Helwani earlier this week about MMA in South Africa, and obviously that's a very important thing close to your heart, your homeland, your nation. And you didn't get the opportunity that maybe some of your teammates had to fight in that PFL card because you fight for the UFC. UFC, I mean, everyone's waiting for that card to get to Africa or potentially South Africa. Have you heard anything about kind of the status of it? Anything holding it up? Are you optimistic? Where are we at?
I have to tell you, we are, the right people were speaking to each other. I was involved with these conversations, and ever since this fight was made, my attention shifted to this fight, and I know the conversations are there between the UFC and South Africa and the sports ministers and the cities and the arenas. Everything is in conversation. But as an update on where we are, I don't have anything. And that's definitely something that I will get after as soon as I'm done with this fight.
How much do you kind of get involved in that? Like, do you talk to anybody, within your own country or anything to try and lobby or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my country is the UFC is now massive. We have a horse to root for. The country is so behind the UFC and myself, behind me, fighting that. But we are still uneducated when it comes to just because it's something new. Uneducated when it comes to arranging because it's a single event. It's not just so just not involved at all in the organization of it. Just making sure the right people speak to the right people and you know almost introducing the right people to each other, making sure the people that need to make it happen uh, speak to the right people who can make it happen. So that's my role, and of course being the face of it.